Welcome back to Fast Market here on the TD Ameritrade Network. Let's get to our next stock, and let's bring in our next guest for our Cash Tag segment. That's going to be Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking travel, we're talking experiences. Airbnb's had a great run so far this year. We've seen some of the hotel operators doing pretty well. Demand remains strong for travel at this point, but what kind of data are you guys seeing out of LikeFolio?
Yeah, I would say the key phrase there is at this point. We're starting to see, a real kind of inflection point, I think, in travel demand. Just this past month, we've started to see travel demand start to wane across several different types. Flying for leisure, taking a trip, traveling for work, booking a hotel, all down on a year-over-year basis, kind of for the first time in quite a while. The good news for Airbnb, international travel mentions are staying up pretty strong, and that's a big component of what they do with their footprint in some of the large cities around the world. So we think really kind of a mixed bag, but overall travel starting to wane a little bit right at this critical period in the year as the consumer starts to get pinched going into that spring and summer travel season. Not great timing if you have an earnings report coming up and you have to lay out your expectations. And then on the when we just look at consumer happiness levels for Airbnb, it also gives us pause. When we look at that compared to some of the big hotel chains, there's really been a very big shift over the last 2 or 3 years in how happy or unhappy people are with the Airbnb experience. A lot of it's related to the fees, to the chore list that people will give you before you check out. People are really starting to understand and appreciate the complete value that hotels give them and the known pricing going in. So I think, overall going into this report, we're starting to see some indications that travel is waning off and becoming less of a priority in tight consumer budgets, and Airbnb is having trouble keeping up with its, kind of long-standing competition, the hotels.
Andy, when I look at and Airbnb talks about the total addressable market for their business, $3.4 trillion. They're currently around 2% of the market share of that. But is it, in your opinion, with the data that you see on a daily basis, is it fair to compare Airbnb to a hotel room? Because having your bed unmade or having to clean up your towels, you should have known that going in, right? It's going to be a different experience. So if you're comparing it to a hotel, maybe you're naive. It's not the same experience that you have. But it's a nicer house. It might be where you can have 8 people staying together, not 2. I mean, are we naive to think that these are really comparable?
Well, I think, when the company says that, by including them in its total addressable market, you have to take the company at its word. And if the company is going to come out and say, we've only tapped 1/50th of this market, you have to compare what is the market that they're trying to go after, and that is hotels, and they are falling short in that regard. So I think they've done a fantastic job of capturing a huge percentage of the actual addressable market, and that is renting someone's home from them, or renting someone's second home from them for just the use cases you're talking about, going to the beach or something like that, or a small city, getting a different experience with a group of people. I think it's fantastic. Airbnb does a great job with that. But if they're going to claim the total addressable market is in the trillions, then we're going to compare them versus those rivals, and they aren't holding up.
Yeah, and just from my experience, I would take a hotel over an Airbnb. I've had good experiences in both, but I think that's what I'm seeing as far as trends and pricing goes, Andy. I'm not sure if you guys have data to back that up, but hotel prices are ridiculous right now because demand's so strong. Are you seeing that fall in maybe Airbnb people that maybe have used it a few times like myself, but I probably won't go back?
Yeah, we're starting to see some decline in demand on a year-over-year basis. I think April was the first decline in Airbnb global returning web visits that we've seen in a really long time. So that month, when compared to the prior year, was the first time we've seen one down. So that tells me that the company's probably going to have a difficult time coming up with a really, really positive outlook going forward. I think it's a lot like we talked about PayPal yesterday, where we said, I think they had a really good quarter. The numbers are going to be great for what they report that happened in the past, but where things are going, it's just starting to slide at just the wrong time. And it would be, in my opinion, unless they have, Airbnb has more data than LikeFolio, but according to what we have and which has been historically accurate, it would be somewhat irresponsible for the company to come out with a really glowing outlook, given what we're seeing across the board in consumer travel demand.
Yeah, and you have to wonder about the inflationary pressures. People, kind of getting strapped here with not only hotel prices, Airbnb prices, but then traveling to those destinations along with fuel prices. But do you have an earnings score going into this one?
Yeah, we're pretty neutral. I think the risk is to the downside. And then one thing we didn't talk about, I just want to point out real quick, is it's gotten a lot more expensive for people to become Airbnb providers because of interest rates, because of mortgage rates. So buying a second house, third house to be a Airbnb profit center isn't the same game as it was 18 months ago. And I think that's a big growth inhibitor for Airbnb going forward.
Yep, I'll take a lobby bar anytime in a hotel above Airbnb every single time. All right, Andy, great data as always. Appreciate it.